A Polish judge fled Poland not to some warm and beautiful country, but to the rather eccentric destination, Belarus, the country ruled ruthlessly by the dictator Alexander Lukashenko. I came here to protest against Polish policy towards Belarus and Russia. Schmidt accused the United States and Great Britain of pushing Poland into direct military conflict with Belarus and Russia and called on Polish authorities to start a dialogue with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and Russia. Countries like the United States of America, Great Britain, they really want to lead Poland to a war zone directly, not only through auxiliary activities. They should really seriously think it through and start a dialogue, first of all with President Lukashenko, Belarus and further with Russia. Thomas Schmidt, a high-level Polish judge at the Warsaw Administrative Court, spoke to the Belarusian propaganda machine during a so-called press conference in Minsk, after he published his resignation letter in a post on messaging platform X. Due to my disagreement with politics and the government's actions, I was forced to leave my country and I am currently residing in Belarus. I was persecuted and threatened for my independent political stand. No one in their right mind flees to Belarus and asks for political asylum there. Belarus is a country run by the Kremlin, so there is no point in fleeing there. After a judge in the Provincial Administrative Court in Warsaw asked for political asylum in Belarus, a real storm broke out. The case is serious because Judge Thomas Schmidt also dealt with classified cases in the Warsaw Provincial Administrative Court. For example, on the 4th of June last year, he was appointed to the panel granting access to classified information, including NATO secrets.
Kraje takie jak Ameryka, Wielka Brytania koniecznie chcą wprowadzić Polskę do strefy wojny już bezpośrednio, nie tylko poprzez działania pomocnicze. Powinni bardzo poważnie się zastanowić i podjąć dialog przede wszystkim z prezydentem Łukaszenką, z Białorusią, a dalej z Rosją.
Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Former Judge Thomas Schmidt faces life in prison in Poland for treason. The Internal Security Agency is investigating the extent of the information to which he had access. There is a wave of outrage following the controversial, or if you prefer, compromising speech by the Minister of Internal Affairs and Administration at the state's Fireman's Day celebrations. The minister has been explaining for 3 days that he was not under the influence of alcohol. He wants to take all those who do not believe the sobriety vouchers he presented to court. The National Fire Service headquarters has asked for an explanation of the problems with the sound system from the company operating the ceremony at which the controversial performance took place. What really happened on the 4th of May? Editor Holdinska reports. Service, sacrifice, these are the most important things. These are the things inherent in the work of firefighters. Every day you go out to rescue. This is how the voice of the Minister of Interior and Administration sounded at noon on the 4th of May when firefighters from all over the country celebrated their holiday. The main celebrations of the Central Firefighters' Day took place at Marshal Józef Pilsudski Square at the grave of the unknown soldier in Warsaw. I will tell you one thing, everyone in Poland has heard what Kierwiński sounded like. So what was it if not alcohol? All of Poland is asking itself, could Marcin Kierwiński have been under the influence of alcohol while presenting his speech? The minister at first replied as follows. There was a reverberation in the square where the ceremony took place due to a microphone malfunction. Anyway, this sound system stands here and there was an equipment malfunction. And later he said this. Those who know me know that I drink very little alcohol, and in these matters I am a very careful man. The State Fire Brigade headquarters confirmed sound system problems in a communique. If there were problems with the sound system, it would also interfere with the speeches by the President or the Speaker of the Sejm, but neither of them was accused of consuming alcohol to excess. I am not prejudging whether Mr. Kierwiński was drunk as a lord or terrified of the crowd gathered in the square. What I do know is that his ramblings spoiled the festivities for thousands of firefighters. Marcin Kierwiński published a receipt to prove that he had undergone a breathalyzer test which showed no trace of alcohol in his blood. He also claims he submitted to a thallium blood test, all hours after the ceremony. This is hardly convincing, as this so-called evidence from the police station on Malchevskiego Street. There is no signature of the person who did the examination. There is a statement on this receipt that the first examination was unsuccessful. In such a situation, he should use the breathalyzer in public, in the light of the cameras. Parliamentarians of the Civic Platform see the issue as lowering standards, but law and justice is failing. Polish politics already knows similar cases. After Alexander Kwasniewski's visit to Kharkov and the recording of the former president's unsteady step, the former First Lady's explanations were equally unclear.
Czy pan coś pił dzisiaj?
Nie, wie pan, no to jest, nie wiem. Теперь скажу по-французски savoir vivre. Значит, как это возможно?
And indeed, in both cases it sounded at least frivolous. The European Union took a major step in ending its legal standoff with member state Poland on Monday, with the Executive Commission saying it plans to withdraw its 6-year procedure over rule of law complaints now that the new Prime Minister Donald Tusk has initiated the necessary changes. The move follows a February decision to already start releasing billions of euros that were frozen over what the bloc said were the previous Polish government's backsliding on democratic principles.
Today, the European Commission has finalized its analysis on the rule of law situation in Poland in the context of the Article 7.1 procedure. The Commission considers that there is no longer a clear risk of a serious breach of the rule of law in Poland. The Commission therefore intends to withdraw its recent proposal from 2017 and close the Article 7.1 procedure. This follows the action plan presented in February by the Polish government. Poland has launched a series of legislative and non-legislative measures to address the concerns on independence of the justice system. It has recognized the primacy of EU law and is committed to implementing all the relevant judgments of the Court of Justice of the European Union and of the European Court of Human Rights.
Tusk has been working hard since taking office in December to overturn measures enacted by the previous Conservative government. The European Union and Poland had been at loggerheads after the stridently nationalist Law and Justice Party came to power in 2015 and implemented reforms that critics said placed Poland's judiciary under political control. The EU threatened to suspend Poland's EU voting rights and also blocked its access to EU funds. US university presidents joined Holocaust survivors and thousands of Israelis on Monday for the March of the Living, a yearly memorial march at the site of Auschwitz that honours the 6 million Jews killed by Nazi Germany and celebrates the State of Israel. This year, the mood of the march was overshadowed by the war in Gaza after the October the 7th attack on Israel by Hamas, the deadliest violence against Jews since Adolf Hitler's regime sought to destroy the entire Jewish population of Europe. A small group of pro-Palestinian protesters waving Palestinian flags stood along the side of the road as participants marched with Israeli flags from the site of Auschwitz in the Polish town of Oświęcim to the site of Birkenau, about 3 kilometers away. Through this protest, we want to say that we bow down to the victims of the Holocaust too, said Omar Faris, president of an association of Palestinians in Poland. At the same time, we demand an end to the war, an end to genocide. This protest is to say that we also bow our heads to the Holocaust victims, and at the same time we demand to stop the war, stop the genocidal war which is led by a criminal Netanyahu, with the help of the United States. We want to tell all those young people who came from around the world, Jews who want to remember their ancestors who were killed, that their ancestors who are still alive, they do the same Holocaust with us. The October attack unleashed a war that has led to a high number of Palestinian deaths, fueling pro-Palestinian protests that have swept US campuses. Many Jewish students have felt intimidated by protests, which have at times included anti-Semitic tropes and calls for anti-Jewish violence. This year, Israeli hostages released from captivity in Gaza and families whose relatives are still being held captive also joined. Judith Zamir, a Holocaust survivor from Germany who moved to Israel in 1964, had long avoided visiting Auschwitz, but she was inspired to join this year's march after her kibbutz fended off an attack by Hamas on the 7th of October. See, I try not to remember it all the time, but on the 7th of October they brought me the remembrance very, very harshly back, she told the Associated Press at the site of the former death camp. And that's the moment when I decided, okay, this is the time you should go to Auschwitz to see it. The area was under German occupation during the Second World War, and today the former death camps are preserved as memorials by the Polish state. The march took place on what is Holocaust Remembrance Day in the Jewish calendar. A grim landscape of watchtowers and barracks were filled with blue and white Israeli flags, a celebration of Jewish survival at the place of genocide. The event, now in its 36th year, usually draws thousands of participants, including Holocaust survivors and Jewish students, leaders and politicians.
It is our belief that all of us, we the Jewish people, who come from a long line of ancestry spanning over 3,000 years. We are all survivors. So this year we want to embrace all who have suffered, all who have passed, all who have met unspeakable acts against them simply because they are Jewish.
Amid the backdrop of pro-Palestinian protests that have roiled American campuses, Rabbi Ari Berman, president of the Yeshiva University in New York, led a delegation of leaders from Catholic, evangelical and historically black colleges and universities. Some who had planned to attend had to cancel to deal with protests at home, Berman told the Associated Press, although he did not name them.
I am here leading a delegation of university presidents who have come to the March of Living, who come to Auschwitz in the greatest tragedy and the greatest travesty ever committed against the Jewish people in human history. And they have said that hate needs to end and that we need to say never again, not just about the past, but that never again is now.